and this has been going on for far too long. The saturation level of the dirt in here is utterly ridiculous.
Sewage was seeping into this basement in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia for about a year, but there were tenants in the 3 units above it. I reported on this story. I spoke to Tricia Gallant, who had been living there for 2 years.
Looked perfect from the outside. You would never even known that this was an issue on the inside because it's all underneath the building.
The building had other issues too. Gallant says it had rats and the apartment only had electricity in the kitchen. But it was only $1,100 a month and she could afford it on her wages working at Tim Hortons. The building had a smell and eventually one of the tenants called in a plumber.
He said that that basement was worse than some septic tanks that he saw.
Gallant was advised to get out of the building and she was told anything she owned with a soft surface like clothes, books, pillows, blankets was probably contaminated.
I lost everything. It's a shock basically to find out that you can't take the clothes that are on your back and you just have to leave everything.
She told me the toll wasn't just emotional, it became physical as well. She got sick and she went to the emergency department multiple times.
They confirmed the nausea, the dizzy spells, the issues with the cognitive functions and all that was most likely associated with the septic issues.
Tenants who are on low income end up having to settle for units that oftentimes do have health issues, mold, plumbing issues, structural disrepair.
FIPS runs a research project that tracks health issues for low-income renters. She wants to figure out how official agencies and systems can better respond to problems. And while her work is based in Ontario, she says it can apply across the country.
The onus is on the tenant to identify and raise concerns about unhealthy conditions. We've put the burden on the people who have the most to lose.
FIPS says tenants might be afraid of being evicted if they report an issue, or their building might be condemned. Either way, it leads to the same question.
Where do you go? Because we know that in some communities, there's just virtually no housing that's affordable.
Gallant says she and the plumber who discovered the leak both contacted the landlord. The plumber was hired to fix the issue, but when he realized how bad it actually was, he called municipal officials and Nova Scotia's Department of the Environment. The provincial officials say they don't have jurisdiction, and the town officials say they were already aware of the situation and their sewage infrastructure was working properly. But they never went inside the house to investigate. They said they didn't have jurisdiction there either. And because Gallant or any of the tenants didn't make an official bylaw complaint, that avenue was never even explored. FIPS says this is a common problem.
An initial contact is made and there's an effort, however successful or unsuccessful, but then oftentimes the system isn't in place, the capacity isn't there, many reasons where that follow through just doesn't happen.
As far as I know, the home is currently vacant but not condemned, and the landlord didn't respond to multiple requests for comment.
When I moved into that place, I was living in my car, so I thought it was gonna save me, when in reality it just made me sick.